Hi guys, so today's video is going to be about grades 4 and 5. It was going to be grades 4 to 6, but I've decided I'd rather use that time to provide you a couple pieces of background, and then grade 6 will be in the next video. And I actually like the way it flows better anyway. So those two pieces of background are, first of all, just to, I'm sure I've gone over this before, but in case I haven't, I'm going to go over it again. So where I live, my province in Canada, schooling is from JK to grade 12, so ages of about 4 to 18. I say about because it depends when your birthday falls. And in my particular region, and in this context, region is synonymous with county. For some reason, my particular place is called a region, even though most of Ontario they say county. Don't ask me why. So in my region, you attend JK to grade 8 at one school, your elementary school, and then grades 9 to 12 is high school. And I don't know why we don't have middle school. I know neighboring counties and regions do. It just is the way it is. And the second piece of background, my particular school board is unique, let's say, when it comes to special ed, although I didn't realize this till a few years ago, that it was so unique. But basically, I guess mandate's the right word. Their mandate is basically total inclusion. All students with special needs are in the regular classroom with an aide called an educational assistant. So there's zero, well, until a few years ago, I'll expand on that. But when I was in school, there were zero special ed classrooms. There were no special ed teachers. There was no, special classroom to put me in because of my behavior. And like I said, I didn't realize until recently that this was unique. I think ostensibly it's because it's, Catholic and we love to include everybody. I think in practice it's money. It's cheaper than running extra classrooms and hiring, extra teachers and stuff. I think that's what I believe now. And I know that for some children with some types of special needs, inclusion can be great. I could go on and on about it actually. But it's not for everybody. And I'm not saying that. How do I put this? I'm not saying that a certain student should be excluded completely, but I think everyone benefits from interacting. But sometimes it's not fair to the teacher, the other students, the special needs student themselves. And I sincerely wish I had not been in the Catholic school board. I'd been in the public board because as much as I don't love everything that board does, but I don't love everything the Catholic board does either. But one thing I think that the public board in my region has correct, public meaning a religious affiliation, by the way, but they have correct is they do have separate classrooms for behavioral needs, etc. And in my case, I would have benefited from being removed from the classroom situation, and you're going to see why. I'm going to get into that now. So we'll start with grade 4, obviously. And my behavior in grade 4, this is when it started going downhill. I talked about how grades 1 to 3 were pretty uneventful. So grade 4, I tended to be very silly. The anger and aggression, that came a bit later. And in grade 4 was mostly silly, hyperactive. And there was a number of reasons for that. One thing was that I switched schools. I attended JK to grade 3 in one school, and then I started grade 4 in a different school because we moved across town. So it's about a catchment area. And this put me, I believe, at a disadvantage because my social emotional development was starting to slip behind the other kids. It probably already had before grade 4. But by this point, it was, I think, noticeable enough that when I came in as the new kid, I came across as weird. I believe if I'd stayed at my other school, I still eventually would have got teased and become an outcast, but I believe it would have taken longer because at that school, the kids knew me. I had kids I played with. We went to each other's parties. I had a little friend group. And I think even though I probably started getting weird by grade 3, they knew me enough that they accepted me anyway. Whereas starting grade 4, I was this new weird kid. I did not know how to enter peer groups, how to get their attention, how to get them to like me. So I would do silly things, blurt stuff out, to try and get their attention, which becomes sort of like a cycle. Because by acting stupid, they would just tease me. But I wanted them to like me, so I kept trying different things to get them to like me. And then that would also be stupid, so they would laugh at me. So I don't know if you follow. But me trying to get them to like me, I think became a cycle. And that was one of my reasons for having behavior in grade 4 was not knowing how to get into the peer groups with the other students. There was also some boredom. I remember, for example, when we would read out loud, if anyone but me was reading, I got very frustrated because I knew I could read a lot faster in my head. Um, and I would get frustrated. Well, yeah, I would get frustrated. I would get bored. I would act out. And reading is just one example, but I did tend to be ahead of the other kids in a number of ways academically. So I would get bored and act silly. And then it became sort of an attention seeking cycle. Because this teacher I talked about in my grades 1 to 3 video, having strict teachers and being a little afraid. This teacher was a lot more, I don't know if lenient's the right word, but she wasn't scary to me. She wasn't like a strong authoritarian figure. So when I acted out, she would take me to the hallway to try and talk to me. And all that taught me was that if I act silly, I get attention from the teacher. So some of the behavior also came from attention seeking, which could be a combination with boredom. I'm bored with this lesson, let's act stupid, and get some one-on-one attention from the teacher. That's basically how I think that played out a lot. I think a lot of the time, which also added to the other kids not accepting me. It's all connected. Um, so yeah, so grade 4, I don't think I got suspended at all in grade 4, and it was pretty, like I said, mostly just hyperactive. You could probably just write me off as like a pain in the butt kid. Grade 5, I started getting more angry, frustrated, aggressive, and one of the reasons for that, which I wouldn't have been able to articulate at the time, was overstimulation. For some reason, my school, even though we had 3 classes of grade 4 kids, for some reason they figured we only needed 2 classes of grade 5, even though it was the same number of kids. So my class easily had 35 kids in it, and a very lenient teacher. Lenient is definitely the right word for this person. I don't know if she was in over her head and or just wasn't trying. It was just, I don't know, maybe she was phoning in her work performance. I don't know. But I remember that class being out of control a lot, which was overstimulating. Which I wouldn't have known that I was overstimulated. I just knew I wanted to get out of there. And I knew from, grade 4 even, I knew if I acted out, I could go to the hallway, and the hallway was quiet. So I think that's how the behavior started in that class. But it escalated because there was another kid in that class who would tease me a lot. He probably had his own diagnosis, to be honest. But he would tease me because I was the weird kid who was always acting out to go to the hallway. So he would tease me, so I would lash out. I would get aggressive. And I remember going on what felt like anger rampages. Now, bear in mind, I probably weighed about 65 pounds, so it probably wasn't that frightening. But I felt like I was on a rampage, and I had the whole class in my control. And for someone who felt out of control and like I wanted to get out of the class, when I had these angry outbursts and it was all about me, I loved it. I loved when it was all about me. It encouraged me to do it more. And I feel like, and I'll talk more about how the school dropped the ball in the next video too. But I feel like, they made no effort to figure out why I was behaving the way I was. They started suspending me. And so that taught me that if I act stupid, if I act badly, I get to go home. And my mom was a single mother at work, so I'd watch TV shows I wasn't supposed to watch. I would eat way too many cookies. Um, and that's what that taught me. They only did it a couple times in grade 5. They really started dropping the ball in grade 6, if I'm being honest. But they did do it a couple times in grade 5, which set a bad precedent, which taught me act out. They never tried to, with the exception of the principal. I remember one time I was throwing books down the stairs, and they sent the principal to deal with me. And everyone else would just say, if you don't get your act together, you'll never finish high school, blah, blah, blah. She would actually talk to me like a human being, and to some degree was trying to figure out why I was acting out. And to give my classroom teacher some credit, I think she did realize I was unhappy because there was a this is weird. This is gonna sound bad. There was a supply closet that adjoined our classroom. It actually had two doors, a door into the hallway, and for some reason a door into our classroom. And I'm not sure how it started, if it was her idea or mine. But she would put a desk in there and let me go sit in there because it was quiet to give me a break. But that went tits up really quickly. If I may, pardon my French. Because other kids saw me going in there, so they wanted to go in there. And then we would end up turning the lights off and telling ghost stories. And I think the teacher was either too busy to notice or happy I was out of her hair, because she never really did anything. But yeah, that was not actually solving any problems. That was yet again teaching me I can get special treatment if I act badly. And anything else. Another thing that started that year, I'm very loud. You may not be able to tell by these videos, but I talk very loudly. And that was the year I started getting teased a lot. I think there was a lot of anger because it always seemed like I was the one that was heard or seen, and I was the one that got in trouble. I remember a kid threw my pencil and eraser behind a short bookshelf, and I somehow managed to knock it over getting the stuff out, or trying to get the stuff out, but all the teacher saw was me shoving a bookshelf. So of course I got in trouble, but the other kid didn't. And that was probably the most extreme, but definitely not the only example. So I think that was another reason I was angry and frustrated and unhappy. And just the fact, too, that I couldn't seem to keep up with the other kids, particularly with motor skills. Why can't I write like you? Why am I so bad in gym? So I would start, it got worse in grade 6, once, like everything else. But I would start refusing to do things, because I knew I couldn't do it as well as the other kids, and it was embarrassing, and I hated it. And actually, a lot of things revolve around the other kids. I actually remember, this is going to be my last point. This is when I started getting aggressive because something would be happening that I didn't understand. I didn't know any other way to respond. Like, I remember a girl in the schoolyard, I had a rubber bouncy ball, and she ended up with mine. I believe it was a mistake. I don't think she realized she took someone else's ball. But I remember I wanted my ball back, and I didn't know how to approach the student. I didn't know how to deal with this. So it manifested as basically me attacking that student. And that was not the first or last time that I was aggressive towards another student. Although some of it too was probably because the students that teased me, I wasn't going to attack them, so I would turn around and attack someone else. So I think there was a bit of a cycle there. But if you're getting, so I'm going to wrap up now. I'm running long today. But the gist of it is, I suffered a lot of frustration, anger, weird behavior. The school dropped the ball. I'm not trying to figure out what was going on. But my weird school board didn't help anything because I was overstimulated. I didn't know how to interact with the other kid. The teacher was going berserk. It didn't benefit me or the other kids. I know I didn't have a diagnosis at that point beyond ADHD. And I don't know for a fact if I would have been put in a behavioral class of some sort in another board. But I feel like more would have been done. And I feel like, well, they didn't contact my mom a lot. She didn't really know a lot of what was going on. So, I'm going to end there. Because I'm going to really, in my next video, I'm going to talk about grade 6. And receiving my Asperger's diagnosis will be the next video, because that happened in my grade 6 year. And you'll hear even more about the school dropping the ball. So I'm running long today, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you.